Hello, everybody. Anybody who's joined in, this is Karthik Magapu from Hummingbird. Welcome you to this webinar. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the webinar on how to change your WordPress theme. My name is Karthik Magapu, and I'm going to let you know about how to change your theme, why should you change your theme, what can go wrong, how do you recover, and how do you make this changing of your theme a pleasant experience rather than something that makes you panicky and unhappy. So let's begin. Let's begin with an overview. What are we going to cover today? Introductions and overview. We're going to be covering preparations before the switch. We're going to be talking about the actual switch itself. Just do it. Switch the WordPress theme. Confirm that all is well after the switch is done. And then we're going to go through a bunch of frequently asked questions. What can go wrong? How to recover if things go wrong? And other stuff. And then we'll wrap it up with a summary, tell you how you get your checklist, and possibly try to answer some questions if we have some time. So let me just Hi there. I hope you can see me. This is Karthik here, and we are going to begin the WordPress webinar on how to switch your WordPress theme in just a few minutes. We've about 6 viewers right now. I've enabled the question and answer section, so please ask your questions on the right. As time permits, I'll pick up some of these questions on the side and try to answer them. Let's hope the slides and the content that I have here answers most of your questions, but hey, there will be questions which I wouldn't have covered. I'll try to cover them during the course of the webinar, or else you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I have my Twitter ID shared on the webinar detail on the page, and also I will share it to everyone after this the actual webinar is completed. Okay, so let's begin. Let me just switch back to the slides. Okay, so that's the summary of what we're going to cover today. Introductions and overview, preparations, do it, confirm all is well, FAQ, and wrapping it up. So let's begin with introductions and overview. Very briefly, who am I? My name is Karthik Nagapu. I run a number of WordPress sites. We run a theme shop, a plugin shop. We run a number of sliders, plugins, which are pretty popular in the world. Sliders, survey tools, user profile tools, a lot of themes and a lot of tools. You can look me up and you can look at the company that I run and all the products that we run there. So we pretty much understand changing themes, building themes, understanding all the things that can go wrong. Most of that stuff we've learned by actually doing it wrong ourselves and then panicking and responding and fixing things. So I'm really excited to share my knowledge with you, and I hope you can benefit from my knowledge and learn new stuff. Don't make the same mistakes we've done in the past. So WordPress and themes. Are themes really wonderful in WordPress? You know, the magical promise. You want to change the look of your site? Don't have to go to a developer. Don't have to go to a company. Just select a theme, one of the thousands, hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands of themes out there, which you could buy, which you could get free, and switch it. That's the promise. But things can go wrong. What can go wrong? A lot of things could go wrong, or you might have a little bit of gray areas when you actually switch a theme. So why would anyone want to switch a WordPress theme? There are a number of reasons why somebody would like to switch a theme. You would like to switch a theme because you have an outdated look and feel. You might want to switch a theme because there are security problems or vulnerabilities you've been made aware of in your old theme. This is something to keep an eye out. Then it doesn't become optional. If you found vulnerabilities or problems, please don't ignore them. Don't wait to get hacked before you upgrade or change your theme. You would also like to change your theme if you want to leverage some new technology, some new features that a new theme that you're selecting offers. So I'm assuming the people who are here will actually figure out how, have decided they want to switch a WordPress theme. Yeah, it's safe to assume that everybody who runs a WordPress site at some point or another will be using a theme and they will want to switch it because they've chosen that sweet theme in the early days, they're experimented with it, and now they've seen this awesome theme somewhere else and they want to switch. So let's assume you're interested in wanting to switch a theme and that's why you're here. Okay. So why has it become so complicated to switch a theme? So I would call the theme to be something like a what do I say? Something like a Jenga puzzle or a puzzle which keeps you, which is a very delicately balanced theme. There are plugins, there's code, there's stuff that keeps the whole website together. And because of the flexibility of WordPress, because of the number of features it offers, because of the features which allows you to use WordPress from all over the place, it can be broken when you switch a theme. So we're going to go through some of the areas that can go wrong and how you can take care of that. So let's start with the first thing. Study your current theme carefully. Study your current theme and make sure that you understand what exactly your current theme does. So it's often that there are functionality embedded in a theme and you don't know that it's actually embedded in a theme. It could be in a plugin, it could be in a shortcode, it could be hidden in various places. So you have to be sure what is your current theme doing. Does it just offer a pretty header and a footer? Does it offer you some widget areas? Does it offer you special custom types, custom post types? There are a host of things that your current theme can offer, which you have to be aware of. Once you're aware completely of what your theme offers and what functionality it offers, you then go on the exciting and scary part of deciding your new theme. Choose those even more carefully. I would recommend strongly to use a theme from a reputed provider that offers support, because the theme is not just a one-time decision. You need supports and upgrades for vulnerabilities. You need supports and upgrades for small bugs. You need support and upgrades to be compatible with new WordPress releases. So you have to try and keep your theme provider someone who you trust, someone who you can get in touch with, someone with whom you can raise support tickets, and someone who you trust to give you updates and new versions of the theme if and when they actually come out. Okay, so let's discuss about why, the whole thing about the old theme versus the new theme. Be clear about why you are changing your theme. If you're not clear about why you're changing your theme, it's possible that you mess up your website. You've got to understand what extra you're going to gain from your new theme. And you have to also be aware of what you will lose with the new theme. It's possible that there are some things, some features which are available in the new theme, which you won't be able to carry forward, or you might need to implement from scratch. Stuff like sliders. Some themes have sliders inbuilt. You might have to put in plugins for the new on the new theme. SEO features, social media, single-click share buttons, look and feel of buttons. You would have nice, slick-looking testimonials, either in the old theme or in the new theme. You could have forms built into the theme, which you might not find in the new theme. The big one, the big daddy of them all is shortcodes. Everybody loves shortcodes in themes because shortcodes allow you to do some really nifty stuff. They allow you to embed functionality, all of the above, sliders, SEO, social media, testimonials, forms inside posts and pages sometimes, and widget areas sometimes. Make sure that you understand which shortcodes your current theme uses and how you can actually take these shortcodes, whether these shortcodes will work in the new theme, probably not, what new shortcodes are available in the new theme, and how you can leverage those shortcodes to get the same result or the same functionality. There's a lot more. Image sizes, image resolutions, content fonts. How will your current content and their labeling look in the new font and in the new look and feel? You have to keep all this in mind when you actually go in for a new theme. Okay, so let me just take a pause here, and I'm going to switch off my screen share and just see. Hi everyone, I hope you can see me, just so that you know how I look and what I'm saying. So we've been talking about, just for some of the new viewers who joined in, and so for some of you who are there, we're talking about switching your WordPress theme. So WordPress is a wonderful software. You get millions of themes, or maybe millions is an exaggeration. You get thousands of themes. Choose your theme from a reputed provider. So the summary till now is choose your theme from a reputed provider who gives you support, because support is essential. A theme is not a one-shot purchase. Make sure you get support for your theme. Second, make sure that you understand what your current theme is actually providing you in terms of functionality, in terms of features. Third, when you select your new theme, make sure that the new theme offers everything you want, and if it loses something, you're okay with that. Don't get any nasty surprises after you switch. Okay, just as a reminder, you can ask me questions on the side. I will try to answer them during the course of the webinar, but if I'm not able to, I will take the time to respond them later and get you the messages on Google Plus later, and probably share a summary with everyone when I send you out the checklist over the course of the next day or so. Okay, thank you very much. Let's get back to the presentation. And okay, so the next section is preparations before the switch. Before the switch is almost the most important part of switching a WordPress theme. Don't switch a theme prematurely. Don't switch a theme too rapidly. So the first thing to do is let your users know. This is a new one. You normally don't let your users. There are a lot of times we've switched themes without letting our users know, and it creates unhappiness, especially if you're a blog, or if you're a website which has extensive user interface, user engagement. Let your users know you're going to switch a theme. Put up a preview post or a teaser post telling everyone, hey, my website is going to see a makeover. We're going to switch the theme, and give tentative date. Let them know. People will love you for it. They might give you feedback up front. They might tell you, some of your users will say, hey, we love the current theme, don't switch. That might actually get you thinking, why are you switching? If a lot of people love your current theme, why do you want to switch? You'll get a lot of feedback. Either ways, let your users know. Now, the next 3 steps are the most critical to theme switching. This is basically clone your website. Figure out how to clone your website. Now, we're not going to go into the details of how to clone your website on this webinar here, but there are straightforward ways to clone your website. If you're interested in methods to clone your website, please send me a direct message or send me a question, and I'll send you a guide on how to clone your website. But a clone is essentially a complete copy of your website, but accessible independent of your website, either on your local setup or on a test domain. So a clone has to be a copy of your website which you can access in parallel with your existing live website. A clone is essential. Why do you want to use the clone? We get to that. After you clone your website, take a backup. You could use a backup plugin. There are a number of good backup plugins out there. Or you could also consider doing a manual backup, which is essentially a two-step thing. Back up your files and back up your database. Now, if your site is large, if your site is complicated, and especially if you have a lot of uploads to your site, a manual backup is recommended because there are some issues that can happen with a backup plugin. There are size restrictions. If your uploads folder goes up beyond hundreds of MB or possibly GBs, a manual backup would give you more peace of mind to make sure that you've got all the files and you've got all the database settings. Test the backup. Backups are worthless if you can't actually restore your site from the backup. Test the backup. Test the backup on a test domain. Test the backup on a subdomain. Test the backup on your local setup. Make sure you can actually use the backup that you've made. This can be time consuming. It could be a little boring initially, but don't skip it. Don't skip testing the backup. The backup is, might as well have not taken the backup if you don't test it, because when you need it, it might not work. Test the backup. If there's a problem, fix the problem, change your plugin, fix the mistakes you made during the manual backup. Again, we're not going to go into the detail here, but if you are interested in how to back up your WordPress, please send me a note, send me a message, send a question, and I will send you a guide on how to take a backup, an effective backup of your WordPress site. Fantastic. Now, make a theme switch on the clone. So now you see why you need a clone, because you can make a switch on the clone without bothering about taking your site down. Make the theme switch on the clone. Don't bother too much about the problems with the site right now when you switch the clone. They could be few, they could be many. Don't bother too much. Right now, the key step that you want to make sure is go to the last point on the slide which you see, which is test a rollback. You need to test a rollback on your clone. So what are you doing? You're taking a clone, you're switching your theme on the clone, and then you're saying, suppose you want to roll back. How does the rollback work? You could either roll back by just switching the theme back, or you could restore from your backup. You've got two options. The first option is quick and simple, but it might not always work. And we'll get to why when we go to the frequently asked questions area, but it might not always work. Okay. Let me just get back on screen. Hello there. I hope you can see me here. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I want to make sure that I'm online and I'm working here. Can you see me, guys? Everyone, hi. We've got 17 viewers. Nice to meet you guys. A summary for everyone who's joined in recently. We're talking about WordPress theme switches. Please send your questions on the right. Click the Q&A and send your questions. Questions will pile up and we will answer them. I will answer them as I can during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So we've covered the prerequisites, the preparations for a WordPress switch. The summary of the preparations is take a clone of your website. Make sure you make a complete copy of your website, a working copy. You've got to understand how to access this working copy from another URL. It could be test.mywebsite.com or it could be mywebsite.com/test. There are a number of methods you could use for taking a clone, but make a clone of your website and then make sure that you know how to back up your website. Then go ahead and switch your theme on the clone. Once you switch your theme on the clone, you can see a lot of issues. You might see some issues. But then when you see those issues, don't be worried about them because you've done it on your clone. You're not worried about your clone. You're just, the process, the prerequisite to switching your theme is you should be able to clone your website. You should be able to switch the theme on the clone. And then you have to test a rollback. Suppose the theme switch doesn't work so well, it happens. How will you roll back? What will you do to roll back? Test that process. Do you have to copy your database and files again? If you're on a hosted WordPress hosting provider, which allows you to roll back to staging environments, test that process. But don't move ahead before you can reliably roll back to a point before you switch to your theme. It's essential. Without doing that, you should not try to switch your theme. Please don't be reckless. Don't shoot from your hip. And don't switch your theme if you can't roll back reliably. Excellent. So have I got that in point? Take a backup, make a clone, switch on your theme, switch the theme on your clone, roll that back. If this works, then you're good to go ahead. Okay. Let me just see. We've got 15 viewers online and some questions coming in. If you have questions, just a reminder, send a question through the Q&A link on the page and the questions will get saved here. And we will speak to you again. I'll respond to those questions as time goes. Okay, now let's go back to the slideshow. Okay, so we're done with preparations before the switch. What else? So the main part of the work of preparations before the switch, after you've tested that the clone works and after you've made a sample twitch, now make a list of all the manual code changes to be made. You have tracking codes like Google Analytics, like Webmaster Code, like any third-party tool like Clicky. There is a host of tracking codes that we normally install. If you added these to the footer or the header or to some other widget area manually, write it down. Do you have RSS codes? Do you have a feed burner integration? Do you have other stuff? Any stuff which you've managed, which you've added manually into your theme, you can be pretty sure that those will vanish when you upgrade, when you switch your theme. Find your hacked theme pages, your sidebar.php, your home page, any templates, any custom TPL templates that you prepared. Find all your custom code because this custom code is going to vanish when you switch your theme. Obviously, if you've done it the right way and you moved all your custom code into plugins, and you have a plugin which incorporates this custom code either via a theme or either via a plugin. I'm sorry, either via a plugin, then you're safe. If you find a lot of custom code, first figure out how you can actually find alternatives for this code. Can you find plugins? Are you able to find plugins? Are you able to find new alternatives for this code? Can you remove the hack? Can you make sure that actually, hey, you don't need to keep the code inside anymore? So after you make a detailed record of all the hacks that you're moving over, you will need them when you move again, remember. You move on to the next step, which is familiarize yourself with the current functionality. This is really useful to test on a new theme. Go through your current website. This is an important, often overlooked section stage of your theme switch. You implement features in your website, and after months and sometimes after years, you stop using it yourself. Your users use the functionality, but you forget how the functionality works actively. Familiarize yourself with everything, because when you switch to the new theme, you need to know that the new theme is actually working as in the old theme. So familiarize yourself and make sure you know how it used to work so that when you go to the new theme, you can test it well. The next point is get rid of unused plugins and plugins that are not needed on the new theme. Why would they not be needed? Because the new theme has the functionality inbuilt. Why would you get rid of unused plugins? Hey, you should have got rid of unused plugins in your current theme. Get rid of the unused plugins to make sure that theme actually, that your site is actually lean, that your site is actually functioning well. Okay, so what's the summary here? Make a record of your code. Make a record of your hacked theme, because you hack theme pages because you need to implement them again. If you find a lot of code, sit and design a plan of action. How will you migrate this? Are you going to choose new plugins? Are you going to make a record of all the hacks and write the code again in the new theme? Both are acceptable methods. I prefer moving plugins, but hey, if you want to write code, write code. Familiarize yourself with the current functionality and get rid of unused plugins and plugins that are not needed on the new theme. Check all aspects of the new site. When we say check all aspects, you've got to make sure that you understand the look and feel of the new site. You've got to understand and the design and the user interface. Make sure that you're happy with the functionality and the features. And the last point is make sure that you're happy with the performance, speed, and responsiveness. So what are we saying? Don't just look at one dimension of your new site on the clone theme. Remember, you're switching the theme on a clone of your site, which means you can happily look at errors and problems without worrying of getting your audience all messed up. So what are the 3 points that you need to look for in your new site? Look and feel, design, and user interface. That's your graphical part. Functionality and features. This is your user flow, workflow, fields, performance, speed, and responsiveness. It's become hygiene nowadays that your site needs to load fast. It needs to move page to page fast, and it needs to be responsive. Oh, I'm sure if your website or audience is popular, a good proportion of your website is going to be working on a tablet or on a mobile. So stick to that. Make sure that your new theme is responsive. Plan any design changes, logo, sizes, color schemes, font selections, page layouts. Plan these changes well on your clone. You might spend weeks, if not days, in designing your new website. Make a meticulous record of all your changes. Make the changes on the clone website and then practice applying them on the new theme. Don't assume that you'll get enough time when you make a live test. You've got to plan this switch, clean up your usage, design, make a proper plan for your user interface changes, your font selections, and your page layouts. Don't ignore these points. Okay, before we go on to the switch, the actual switch itself, I'm going to be going back here. Hi there, I'm back. Okay, so now what have we talked about? We've talked about stuff to do before you actually do the switch. And the summary of that, clone your site, test, switch the theme on the clone site, and then do the real hard work, which is identify all the code changes which you've made. You shouldn't have made many, but we're all human, we do make changes. Identify the code changes. See if you can switch that code to a plugin, and see if we can actually switch that code away from the hacked code, and if you can encapsulate it in a plugin. You might need some developer help for this. If you're a developer yourself, you might do it yourself, but spend some time in this. Then there are 3 aspects of your website that you need to check: the user interface and the design. The second one is the features and the functionality. And the third is the performance, speed, and responsiveness. Check all these dimensions on your switched theme on the clone. Remember, we have not yet switched live. We've switched on the clone. Check user interface, check features, and check performance, speed, and responsiveness. Excellent. Now let's get back. Reminder to everyone, we've got about 15 to 20 viewers here. Send any questions you have on the side using the Q&A. Or send any messages on Twitter, and we'll try to answer you as soon as possible. Thank you so much. I'm going to get back to the slides. Just give me a second. Okay. So the next step is do it. Just do it. Do the switch. But then the switch has to be done carefully. The assumption here is the switch has actually, all the prerequisites for the switch are done. So after the prerequisites for the switch, the pre-switch activities are done, do the switch. What is the switch? Clone your website again. Please don't confuse this with the clone for the test. Clone your website again. Why do you need to clone this again? Because you need a sample in order to be sure that the new theme is actually working as per the old one. Back Back up your files in database. Do it again. Don't just rely on the backup which you did in the past. Back up your files in database. Put the site in maintenance mode. This is an important part. Put the site in maintenance mode so that the users and the visitors to your site know that something exciting is happening. Design your maintenance mode slide page well so that people don't think your site is messed up. People are aware that a theme switch is happening, and they'll be a little forgiving when and if they find some small problems. So don't worry. Switch your theme to the live website and take a deep breath. Install new plugins, apply manual code as required. Do not leave this to only this stage. That's why we had preparation stage. You should have practiced installing the new plugins. You should have made sure that the plugins work without breaking. You have to make sure you know how to apply the manual code. You have to have eliminated the need for manual code as much as possible. But if you can't eliminate it, you should know how to apply it in the new theme. It should take no more than a few minutes, half an hour at best, to do this stage of the switch itself. And then comes the important decision point. Look at your live site. Remember, even when you're on maintenance mode, you can test your site as if you're a user if you log in as an admin. So users will see your website as if it's on maintenance mode, but you yourself can check the site as if you're a user. So go to the site and do a quick check. Yes, you've tested it enough times on the clone, but go live now and test it. And make a decision. Are you ready to switch, or are you chickening out and do you want to roll back? If you're ready to go live, move to detailed testing. If you're going to roll back, believe me, it happens. If you're going to roll back, take your site out of maintenance mode now and roll it back. Do not fret if you find issues which actually which will cause problems. Roll back using the tested process that you did test during the prerequisite. Remember, we said you have to test how to roll back. If you believe that after the actual twist on live you've missed something, you've made a mistake, just roll back the site, take the site out of maintenance mode, and you're back where you began. Nothing to worry about. Now, just in case you have actually decided to move forward, do testing. Keep the site in maintenance mode and do extensive testing. Spend about half an hour quickly to go through all your pages, to go through your feed links, to go through your widget areas. Just make sure that things aren't broken beyond normal irritating stuff. Compare with the clone site frequently. Then switch off the maintenance mode. Most websites, when you switch off the maintenance mode, rolling back is now a problem. So this is what I would like to call a point of no return. If you switch off the maintenance mode, a point of no return has been reached in my mind. After point of no return, if you find problems, I prefer to actually spend the time and effort to fix them rather than doing a panic and a rollback. Remember this, after you take off maintenance mode, transactional information is going to get filled into your database, which means rolling back will mean you lose transactional information. So what are examples of transactional information? New users which get added to the database, you might use them. New comments that people add to your posts, you might lose them. If people aren't able to read your, you might lose any orders if your website is an e-commerce website. There are a lot of transactional stuff that you might lose if you roll back after you switch off the maintenance mode. So for that reason, I prefer doing testing before you switch off maintenance mode. And after you switch to off the maintenance mode, suck your breath in and hold it. If you find problems, fix the problems rather than doing a panicky rollback. What do you keep an eye on now? Keep an eye on your traffic, keep an eye on your bounce rate. If you see any abnormal changes, usually there is a problem. Maybe there are 404 errors, maybe some pages have gone offline, maybe some posts have gone offline. Anything which is abnormal, make sure that you dig into the reason for that. Get some help if needed, get a developer's help if needed, or do the research yourself. Don't worry, it's not rocket science. It's only a question of the effort you put in. Don't worry. Get audience feedback via forums or social media. Don't be shy. Ask your audience feedback. They'll tell you what's going wrong and whether they like the theme or not. Okay, So before we go on to the FAQ, let me just go back here. Hi there, I'm back. Okay. So we've got some questions coming in. We'll try to answer those questions towards the end. And we've got the same level of viewers, about 15 to 20 viewers going up and down. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Again, a quick summary and a recap before we go ahead. So we talked about the prerequisites that we need to do before you switch the theme. That's the critical part. Invest time and effort in doing your research and homework before you switch your theme. After you switch your theme, decide a point of no return where you say, my basic functionality is working, so I am moving forward. After that, don't do a panicky rollback. Stick to your new theme and fix the problems. Come up with a detailed list of issues, prioritize those issues, and fix those issues. Since you've told your audience, since you're seeking feedback from your audience is your best friend. They will tell you if there are problems. Listen to them, prioritize those based on impact to your audience and your site, and fix them. Don't roll back in a rush. Okay? Excellent. So now let's get back. Before I get back, I'd like to answer a couple of questions here. So let's see. Okay. So there's one here that Kristen has asked. So the question is, does it mean you can have your new site in maintenance mode while it's actually live and available to visitors? Now, I'm sorry if you misunderstood that based on what I was saying. When your site is in maintenance mode, you can access the site as if it was live. When you log in as an admin, most maintenance mode sites allow you to actually look at your website as if it's not on maintenance mode, so that if you see some problems, you can just roll it back and take it off maintenance mode, and your audience wouldn't see anything terribly amiss. So I'm sorry if I misled you in my previous point, but that's the point it is. If you're on maintenance mode, all anonymous users or all non-admin users will see the maintenance screen. But if you're an admin user, you can actually see preview the whole site and decide whether you want to stick with this change or not. Okay, thank you for that question. Some people have suggested some really nice plugins for custom code, and so I'll share that with everyone at the end. And also when I send you the checklist, I'll send some stuff about suggested plugins and stuff which you can use. Okay, let's go on now. I'm going to turn back the screen share on. I'm sure you're tired of looking at me. Let's look at the slides. So we've come to the FAQ, the frequently asked questions. What can go wrong? Believe me, a lot of things can go wrong, and other stuff. So some settings can be lost forever in a theme switch, and that's why backups are a must. Okay, test restoring from a backup and also test a rollback on your live site. These 2 points are very critical. Don't assume that everything will go as promised. Don't assume that there will be no problem. If you're lucky, there'll be very little problems. If you're unlucky, there might be problems that you can fix, but don't feel panicky. Oftentimes, I found when you are confident about creating a backup and confident about restoring a backup is when you don't need it. When you're fidgety, when you're worried about rolling back and you can't roll back, that's when you get panicky. So make sure that you know how to roll back your site. Get familiar with staging or clone versions of your website. Believe me, they are lifesavers. You could use plugins for this. You could use a third-party service for this. If you're on a host which allows you to do staging environments, you could use their features. But remember, staging environments or clones of your websites, these are your friends when you do a theme switch. These essentially make you have a look at another version of your whole website without actually changing it on live. The other important thing that I found is you have to make a list of must-work functionality, and you have to make sure that this must-work functionality is good in your new theme. Be flexible with the little bits. Be flexible with the small pieces. You can fix that after switching. Don't be a stickler to 100% good in the new theme. That's not the return on investment on the effort is usually negative with that approach. So what am I saying here? I'm saying Figure out what are the 5, 6, 7 things that have to work in your new theme. Once you figure that out, once you make sure that those things are working in the new theme, take a deep breath and switch, because there will be problems how much ever you test. As long as they're not big problems, it's much better to switch them on live quickly and efficiently over a few days rather than spend weeks in testing them on the clone and then still finding them when you actually switch to live. The other important frequently asked question is, hey, I've lost my menu. Oh, my custom posts, a lot of my content seems to have vanished. Shortcodes seem to have broken. So let me just go through each of those. So you don't lose menu when you switch. You don't actually use your menu structure. Your custom menus when you switch a theme. What you do possibly lose is the view of those menus in your header. So that every theme decides which custom menu to actually show and where. That's the definition of the theme. So it's possible that in your new theme, your custom menus vanish. So it's relatively easy to get the custom menus back. How can you get the custom menus back? You need to go into your menus, you need to associate your custom menus, and depending on your theme, you can structure them, either drag the menus into the right place, configure them in the right place. Believe me, your menus have not vanished, they've just got hidden. The same with post types, custom post types. Almost every theme, most themes, especially if you're using a rich theme, uses custom theme post types. So what is a custom post type? For example, WooCommerce uses custom post types called products. You could have an e-commerce theme which calls it products, or a store. They could link it. You could have a deal theme which calls some new posts as deals. You could have so many different types of custom posts. Now, when you have a new theme, it's possible that the old custom themes aren't recognized, and so they vanish. Remember, it looks as if you've lost content, but you've not really lost your content. They're just hidden. They're all safe inside your database. You can bring them back up. How can you bring them back up? You can either enable description of those custom posts in your new theme, or you could decide to do a mass migration of your custom posts. There are plugins for that. To move your custom post out of your existing theme, and to rename your custom post to either something a post type that your new theme recognizes, or switch them to a new theme, switch them completely to a standard post type, which then makes it easy to be recognized across any theme. Shortcodes is a big one, believe me. You could have a webinar completely on shortcodes. You can be almost pretty sure the shortcodes which you're using on the old theme will stop working on the new theme. Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. Maybe you don't need the shortcodes anymore. Maybe there are free features available on the new theme you can enable directly. You will most probably find alternatives to your shortcodes. You will have to painstakingly go find all the shortcodes you're using on the old theme, figure out the alternatives in the new theme, either a widget, either a plugin, or actually a new shortcode, a replacement shortcode. There are nifty plugins available to tell you which shortcodes are not working. There are nifty plugins which you can then do, you could replace those shortcodes from the old to the new, or you can do them manually to make sure. You might actually find a bunch of shortcodes you're using in the old theme that you don't need anymore. You added it a few months ago, you forgot all about them, and this is an opportunity for you to stop using them. So you might lose your menu, you might lose your custom post types, you might lose shortcodes. Don't worry, content is all there. It's just hidden because of the way the new theme works. Okay, widget settings can be reset or lost. So just before, there was a point which I made in the previous slide which I'd like to touch upon. There are some settings which are actually set up as they're saved in a custom options within the theme, flagged with the theme. You need to make sure that sometimes even when you switch the theme temporarily and come back, these custom themes will be lost. Sorry, custom settings will be lost. Do this on the clone. That's why clones are important. They're your friends. You could call them staging environments, or you could call them clones. Okay, so make sure that you test on the clone all your widget settings, and all your settings for the theme remain when you switch back. This is part of your rollback strategy. There are some things you might actually switch to another theme and then come back, and you might find it doesn't look like before. That's why you need your rollback. That's why you need your backups. I can't overemphasize how much of lifesavers rollbacks and backups can be. What else can go wrong? Settings can conflict with the new theme. There could be some JavaScripts. There could be some new libraries being loaded. Some plugins may really play. They decide not to play friendly with your new theme. Performance can get degraded. Why? Because large libraries could be loaded in your new theme. There could be some settings in your PHP which don't allow the new theme to work well. The most notorious setting I have found is the memory setting. Often, the newer, more beautiful looking, richer themes need more memory. That's not so much of a problem nowadays because memory has become cheap. But you need to make those changes on your PHP settings. You could do them yourself if you're nifty with that, or you could raise some support tickets with your hosting provider. Make sure you talk to your theme provider and ask them what's the recommended memory setting for your PHP in your on your WordPress site. And the last but definitely not the least, don't take browser compatibility and responsiveness for granted. Browser compatibility and responsiveness. These two are oftentimes the biggest reason why you lose audience, why audience decides you're either a professional business website or an amateur one. You can't control which browser people will access your website from. Make sure you cover the top 5 or 6. Make sure that your website and the new theme is responsive. Try on different tablet sizes. If you're running a website which is actually making money, I would actually recommend you buy devices of different resolutions. Do not, while simulators and website browser simulators are great for a quick test, the final test happens with an actual device. Get a few iOS devices, get a few Android devices, and test them. You don't have to test all the resolutions, but get a big tablet, get a small phone, get a big phone. That should more or less cover a big proportion of your audience. Try different browsers, try responsiveness for yourself on devices. Of course, browser compatibility and responsiveness is one of the things which I would go live even if some of these don't work. Go live with your new theme, prioritize your switching, analyze how many visitors are coming on the broken browser or on the broken resolution of screen, and fix those over time as soon as time and resources permit. Okay. Before we actually do a wrap up, I'd like to go back. Hi there, I'm back. So let's summarize. Let's quickly summarize where we've been now. We've got about 10-12 minutes left, so we're going to wrap up soon. But I'd like to summarize and bring some points to your mind which you can take away. Before you switch a WordPress theme, learn how to clone your site or create a staging of your website. I can't emphasize how critical this is. Learn how to make a copy of your website or a backup of your website. Backups are useless if you don't know how to restore from them, or if they don't restore accurately. Make sure you test restoring from your backups. Once you know how to clone your website and how to switch from your clone to your live, once you know how to back up your website, now you're in a position that you can test. Make a clone of your website, copy your theme into the new clone, switch the theme. Find all the problems. Find the code problems, find the plugin problems, find functionality, new functionality that you have to set up, find old functionality that is broken that you need to find alternatives for, find any look and feel problems, find features and functionality which is good problems, find problems based on performance, speed, and responsiveness. List these things down, put them together in a plan, build out the new design if needed, which is a new header. You could need a new logo resolution. You could need a new header image, a footer. You could need new image resolutions of the embedded infographics or images on your posts. Go through your site, make a list of all the issues, and start fixing them all on the clone. Once your clone looks good, look at your plan and say, what efforts did you do to reach from the broken clone to the live clone, to the good looking clone? If it's too much of manual effort, try to avoid it. Try to put your code into a plugin. We could discuss separately on how to take hacks and put it into a plugin, but that's essential. It's good practice to move your hacks and code into a plugin. So which means when you move next, you can just activate your old plugin and all the hacks will get applied. They're not called hacks if you actually put them into a plugin. But that's a little more involved. You might find sticking a tracking code or sticking a feed burner code is much easier and faster if you just use the code in your, let's say, the footer.php or your sidebar.php. Don't fret it if you do that. Just record it, track it, make sure that you carry those changes forward to the new theme. What can go wrong? Lots of things can go wrong. You might lose a lot of content. When I say lose, it's quote unquote. You don't really lose the content because your database has it all. What you do is this content might be hidden. Menus might go hidden. Custom post types might go hidden. Some widget areas may vanish. Some functionality may vanish. Don't panic. Custom post types can be recovered either through migrating the custom post types to standard post types or to post types that your new theme recognizes. Menus can be recovered by building the menu out again in the new theme, associating with the old custom menus that you built in the past. Don't worry, widget areas are meant to be reset in the new theme because it's a new theme. You have to redesign the look and feel. If you're going to clone the exact old functionality, I would question look and feel. I would question why did you switch the theme? You're switching the theme because you want to make it look a little different. So experiment. Get feedback from your users. Understand, listen to them. You will have users who love you for the theme switch. You will have losers who hate you for the theme switch. Be prepared for both. Take feedback from the ones who hate you. Be gentle. Don't panic and switch back to the old theme too much in a hurry, because a point of no return is when new transaction information gets plugged into your new theme. At that point, it's much easier to fix the issues you find rather than actually try to roll back. Rollback is if you have broken functionality beyond repair. But if you've cloned your site and if you've tested your switch on the clone site, you shouldn't face this situation at all. You will have a small list or a large list of minor or low priority fixes you want to apply over time. Could be a few days, few hours, few weeks. Prioritize. You know your audience. You know which functionality is critical for them. Okay. So as a reminder for some of the new people who joined possibly a little late, send in your questions on the right and we will respond to them either at the end of the webinar in a few minutes or possibly directly by message to you. Thank you very much. Let me go back to the slides. Okay. So wrapping up. We have a checklist. We built a checklist. I built a checklist for this and I will send that PDF out to you via email. We will share that to all the people who attended. We'll also share a link of that checklist to this Hangout and the video that gets created on this checklist. Points to remember. We've covered these, but just an important set of summaries. Use site cloning and backups to make the new theme test easy. Invest in testing your new theme extensively to avoid nasty surprises online. Don't worry if you have to abort and try another day. It happens. Once you cross the point of no return, don't panic and try rollback. Just fix any issues you might find. Get feedback from your audience. They will probably find more issues than your testing can ever can because they use your site much more extensively than you. Keep a channel open, stick a feedback form, stick a social widget for them to share issues or report issues which they find. Remember, 3 dimensions you need to keep an eye on: user interface design, features and functionality, and performance, speed, and responsiveness. Okay, so that more or less covers what I wanted to cover today. We have about 5 minutes left from the scheduled time left. So just before we go on to any other discussions or thoughts or questions, I'd like to just share a little more about me. These are the websites and businesses, the WordPress businesses that I run. Cyberchimps.com is a theme shop, wpaka.com, a plugin shop, slidedeck.com, a full feature slider plugin, surveyfunnel.com, survey plugin to improve your conversion. There are a host of other websites we run. I've not listed the whole list here. Most of them are WordPress based. You can touch it. You can get in touch with me. I'd love to speak to you, interact with you on Twitter at Karthik Magapu. There's my Twitter ID. And I run a company called Hummingbird Web Solutions, hbwsl.com. We're based in India, to the west of India. If you come to India, look me up. I'd love to share a cup of coffee with you. And if you have questions about how to change a theme, if you have doubts, if you need some advice, if you need some help on how and when you switch into a theme, don't hesitate. Send me a tweet, send me a message, and I'll try to help you as much as possible, give you some insight based on my experience. Believe me, I've broken enough WordPress sites when we've updated the theme to know some of the stuff which we don't need to do. Make your own mistakes, don't repeat mine. Learn from my mistakes and tell me something about your experiences. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so that's more or less done. We have a few minutes left. We have about 4 minutes left. So please send your questions or queries on the side. Tell me any comments. Share with me any experiences. Tell me if you think I should have covered something else. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff you can cover in something as complex or as comprehensive as switching your WordPress theme, but we have only an hour. We have a wide variety of audience, so I've tried to cover the basics, and I want to make sure that it helps you thinking about the process, about what you need to do. Make sure that you follow the process. Make sure that you're able to roll back and you have confidence. Don't worry. Don't get scared when you actually make changes. Changes can go wrong sometimes. Don't worry. Make sure that the big changes aren't broken by doing some tests. And make sure that you communicate with your users and discuss with them and get feedback from them. So, few more minutes left. So here's all the best to you. When you make a theme change, let me know how you did, whether you repeated any of the mistakes or the doubts or the worries, and how you would like to, any other help that you'd like from me. Send me a message on Twitter or on Google+, and I'll try to answer your questions and try to help you actually change your theme successfully. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me see if there are any questions that I'd like to pick up and answer right now. Okay, so there's a specific question from Adrian Marinescu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Adrian, I want to test a WP theme on a local host. What do you suggest? Apache Nginx server, local host on a stick. Okay, so if you're on local host, you're full control. You don't need to make it complex, Adrian. Depending on the operating system you're on, I would suggest using something like XAMPP, XAMPP, or WAMP, WAMP, or MAMP if you're on the macOS operating system, MAMP. This gives you a default out-of-box installation of the web server, of the database, and of the other tools you require, and you could install WordPress with a single copy and test it. So if you have a resource constrained machine, you could install a standalone memory stick, but I would suggest making a new folder in your operating system, install one of the out-of-box systems like XAMPP or MAMP or WAMP, depending on whether you're on Windows, Linux, or the Macintosh operating system, and test it. Localhost is much more flexible, so go with what works for you. Don't go. There is no best answer for localhost because it depends on your RAM, your processor, and your operating system. Thanks, Adrian. Okay, so we have a set of questions like, are there any theme recommendations to start for beginners? Are there some plugins for various functionality? So we will be sharing this information when we send the checklist out to you. What are some great theme shops to check out? How do you, are there any suggestions for plugins? Where do you check out some good plugins? And we'll share that stuff with you on when we send out the checklist to you. Okay, we're almost done. Time is up. Thank you so much for everybody who's taken the time out and attended my webinar. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I know your time is valuable, and I'm thankful for you to actually spend your time here. I hope I've been of some use. I hope that you're able to learn from this webinar. Apologies if I haven't come across clearly. Please send me some feedback. Critical feedback is much appreciated. Some positive feedback is equally appreciated. Please tell me if you would like to see something different in future webinars. Please let me know if you'd like to see something not covered today. Please let me know if you'd like to actually hear some other information or bits and pieces. If you have any specific information related to your website, your theme, your circumstance, send me the messages and I will try to respond to every one of you and let you know. Maybe not immediately, maybe not today, but over the next few days, I will take the time to respond to every one of your questions and let you know and help you in any which way I can. Thank you so much. We're going to be off air in a few seconds. Just the last opportunity for people to send in any questions, if at all. Okay, I think we are going to go offline. I'll just bring up the slide of about me, just so that if you can get in touch with me if needed. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone. Love you all for being here and looking forward to speaking to some of you either one-to-one or via messages based on any help and feedback you want. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. I'm going to be going offline any second now.